So, welcome back to English with Jonny, the place where you can learn how to speak good, proper, authentic English. Today, we're going to be looking at a huge misconception that in order to get a good lexical resource score in your speaking, you need to inject and embed as much academic vocabulary in your answers as humanly possible. Now, this is incorrect for quite a few reasons. The first thing is it sounds rote and memorized, which, as we all know, is not the mission when you're speaking in the exam. The second thing is that when you are forcing the academic vocabulary into questions which aren't very academic or simple, you're going to come across as a bit arrogant, pretentious, and if you use them incorrectly, on top of that, you will look very foolish and it will leave a bad impression on the examiner. Now, we'll be moving on to a few examples of how not to answer speaking questions. So, let's start with a simple question. Do you like any sports? Now, somebody who is trying to force vocabulary often says something akin to this. Yes, I am a human being who derives pleasure from engaging in numerous physical, strenuous activities, the most principal of these being the art of football, a sport which has entertained people for centuries on Earth, and I believe that it has boosted my physical capabilities and my mental communication and health and teamwork skills have all been drastically enhanced. Is that good? Because that's what you sound like if you're trying to force academic vocabulary and you're trying to be as clever as you can and really show off to the examiner. It's the wrong way to go about it. It doesn't sound great. A better way to answer this question would go like this. Yes, I'm a pretty keen footballer actually. I played in a team when I was very young, around the age of 5, and since then I've kind of tried to, maintain my progress and love for the sport. I don't follow it too closely, but now that I'm older, but I do, still enjoy a kick around with my mates from time to time. So in that answer I just did for you, there wasn't any vocabulary that would go over your head. There's nothing that you won't really understand. I mean, it's more important to give a natural, fluent response and for the person listening to you to follow you and understand what you're saying. If you overcomplicate things by trying to force academic vocabulary, it's going to be painful to listen to. Believe me, I've been there. Let's try another example. So, another simple question would be something along the lines of, do you like to travel? Now, somebody who's trying to really show off but actually doesn't have a good English ability would say something like this. I find the timeless conception of moving oneself from one place to new cultures and nations a unique and exhilarating hobby. Personally, I am a globetrotter who constantly wants to assimilate new places and broaden my intellectual and cultural understanding beyond anything I have ever envisioned before in my lifetime. So a more natural response to something like this would be, absolutely, I'm a huge fan of going to new and exciting places. Unfortunately, I don't really get the chance to do so much nowadays, as I'm quite busy at work. But when an unexpected holiday or day off crops up, I make an effort to go to a unique and interesting place, and hopefully I'll be able to learn something or get something from the experience. Now, when you're watching this video, you're probably thinking, hang on Jonny, the first one's not so bad. It's full of vocabulary and it sounds like you know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, it just seems odd. Nobody would ever talk like that in an everyday conversation. And okay, I'll give it to you, IELTS is not a natural test, but as I always tell you, your job is to respond as naturally as possible in the face of unnaturalness. So, what you need to do for these type of questions is not overuse the academic vocabulary, not force it. I know it's tempting. It's worth noting that if the examiner thinks you've learnt these at home by heart, then they won't give you any marks for your answer. You would just be wasting your time and their time, which again leaves a negative impression on the examiner and whoever else might listen to you. Okay, so let's have a look at another very simple question. Do you like cooking? As always, we will start with the incorrect way to answer a question like this. Yes, I often engage in numerous culinary adventures in order to produce delectable and succulent dishes which incorporate a wide variety of spices and herbs from around the globe which electrify the taste buds. So I can say that cooking brings me an immense sense of euphoria. So again, you're probably saying, what's wrong with that, Jonny? It sounds scripted. It sounds rehearsed at home. It sounds unnatural. Would you ever be able to answer a question like that in your own first language, let alone in English? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of responses and samples just like that all across YouTube and the internet, telling you that that is how you need to speak in order to get a band 9. That's incorrect and it's misleading, and it will set unrealistic expectations of what is required of you in the real test. In the exam, you just need to speak naturally and normally, like you're talking to another person, because at the end of the day, no matter how scary the examiner might be, they are a person and they will appreciate a conversation with another person rather than two robots going at each other. So, with that said, let's move on to the more natural and, if you want, better way to answer a question like that. Well, personally for me, I try to stay away from the kitchen. It's not that I have a strong dislike for cooking, it's just that I'm not very good at it. Normally, most of my culinary experiences have ended in complete disasters, and I've not enjoyed eating what I've cooked. But in terms of the actual process of making these dishes, I do have a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoy trying out new spices and flavours and doing my best to recreate a dish that I found on the internet. But like I said, due to my own lack of ability and aptitude for this hobby, I generally don't count cooking as something I'm really into. You're probably thinking that the first one was better. You're probably thinking it was more fluent, it had more impressive vocabulary, and all round just seemed like a more advanced answer. That's not the case. The examiners are looking for a natural response, and that includes at times pausing and vocab that is not advanced or academic but is related to the topic. And don't forget to always be showing off your grammatical range, because in fact I would argue that that is more important than lexical resource for most candidates. Now, we've reached that time again where we're at the end of the video, so I'll be giving you some final thoughts on what I think about this issue. The first thing which must be said is that I'm not telling you to abandon your learning of academic vocabulary. You do need academic vocabulary for the exam, but don't force it into your answers if it doesn't work. And the academic vocabulary you learn, you should really learn it. What I mean by that is you know how to use it in a variety of different contexts, you know what it means, you know how to pronounce it. You're not just injecting and embedding the vocab in the answer for the sake of having high-level vocabulary, because that's not the way to sound fluent and natural. And you'll be much better just to learn vocab which encompasses a large variety of topics and gives you that flexibility to answer a variety of different questions rather than forcing very specific vocabulary into any question where you find or what you think is an opening. So, until next time, don't give up, guys. Keep practicing hard, and I'll be with you every step of the way, and I promise you, by the end of all of these videos, you will sound 10 times better. Good luck. See you next time. Okay, I think you got it.